No, well, I remember the days when ministers did resign for misleading Parliament, but it seems that's not the done thing anymore. It's curious for me. It's rather sad. And as you suggested, Jarrod Bleijie, it seems for now that the only person facing punishment is the unnamed politician who took the picture of King's phone and exposed it all. She was furious about that. Have a listen.
Last night, a report on 9 News showed an image of my mobile phone on my desk within the Legislative Assembly while the proceedings of the Queensland Parliament were occurring, taken on the 11th of October 2003. The image was clearly taken from within the chamber by a Member of Parliament sitting behind me. This is a serious breach of the rights and privileges of a member of this House and a breach of trust by an elected official of the Queensland Parliament.
Order, members.
Mr. Speaker.
Order, members.
Their actions amount to intimidation of a Member of Parliament in the discharge of the member's duties.
Jarrod Bleijie, who took that picture and should they be punished?
Well, the Labor Party are trying to find that out, the whistleblower. And the reality is the member for Palmerston, who was just shown in your program there, was complicit in the lie of Stephen Miles. She could have corrected the record in Parliament since November last year and she chose not to. So she is just as bad as Stephen Miles in this regard. And I'm not going to get into the details of who took what pictures. That's a distraction the Labor Party are trying to make out today. The reality is, though, the serious issue is Stephen Miles lied to Parliament and his member, the Labor member for Palmerston, also covered it up since November last year. And they're both angry. They both got caught. That's their issue.
It'd be rather strange that the whistleblower gets punished, but the liars do not. That strikes me as rather odd.
Well, the Labor Party have a history of that, Andrew. The Labor Party have a history of going after whistleblowers. That's the problem. They seriously do. The member for Maryborough, in fact, wanted a list of whistleblowers that had submitted to an inquiry about integrity in Queensland. Why would a Labor Party member want to know who the whistleblowers were submitting to an integrity inquiry? Obviously to go after them. That is their behaviour. It's the Labor way, but it's not Queensland way.
Jarrod Bleijie, the Premier is also under fire for not visiting a tent city that sprung up in his own electorate. Homeless people camping there, people with children even, people with jobs. It's just so sad. Even a woman who was released from hospital only yesterday after a bladder operation. Is a tent city really where she should be? Now, my question is this. Is the tent city really the Queensland government's fault? Or is this what we get from out-of-control immigration into this country, which has been importing 500,000 people in a single year, faster than we can build houses for for Australians now?
Well, Andrew, I'll comment on what the Queensland government, as a state member of Parliament, can do and what their track record has been on this regard in housing crisis. It's been atrocious. Stephen Miles, the Premier, was actually the planning minister that has seen under his watch a 30% reduction in land being released and available for Queenslanders to build homes. He was the infrastructure minister that has seen a destruction and wasteful expenditure like the knockdown of the Gabba for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. He was the minister responsible for the housing crisis. Now, we find out today this tent city for working people in his electorate, just on the border of his electorate, are living in tents. These are families, these are working families that can't afford rent, that can't afford the aspiration of owning and having the dream of owning their own home. It is absolutely at the feet of the Miles government. They have been empowering Queensland for nearly a decade. Whether it's the housing crisis, the youth crime crisis, the health crisis or the cost of living crisis, it lays at the feet of the Labor Party, the Labor government and Stephen Miles.
Look, Jarrod Bleijie, you're probably right on some of that, but I have to say, let's not forget the elephant in the room, the immigration program that brought our parents, or some of our parents from Holland, for instance. It's now totally out of control, and Australians are suffering for it, including the poor Australians there who should be the first consideration for a Labor government, I must say. But thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it.